Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Grid Monthly Sessions, all about how to get your deals funded. My name is Cheree. I am a part of the Gridiverse. I am a lender that focuses on helping you build wealth through your real estate portfolio. And that's everything from your primary home all the way up to all sorts of commercial properties you would want to purchase and everything in between. And today's session is all about long-term rentals, mostly how to actually purchase them, how to analyze them. Brandon is going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk about funding. And then we do have one more guest who's coming as well to talk about something special. So with that, everybody, again, if you would put where you're coming from in the chat, let us know what city and state you're coming from. We'd love to see that from everybody who is here today. So, Brandon, welcome.
Hey, Cheree, how we doing?
Hey, good, thank you. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm a lender, but you are a realtor, right?
Sure, yeah. I've been working in the real estate biz for years now. I actually came out of the engineering world for that, so I'm a big numbers guy, big data guy. I love me a spreadsheet, right? So,
Hmm.
it kind of drew me into the real estate world. A lot of math, a lot of cash flow. So I do focus on the investor side of the world. Of course,
Hmm.
we'll help some family and friends, but probably two-thirds of my business most years is all investors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand the game, do a little bit of investing myself, have one house hack currently, and then am renting out a second property. So I'm still learning a lot, honestly. But getting into the game earlier rather than later is kind of what I've realized is kind of the secret, and just kind of build from one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you are helping investors, and I love working with investors as well. You're helping investors with regards to rentals. Talk to us a little bit about how investors should think about building their real estate rental portfolio. Um, is it more about cash flow? Is it more about appreciation? Like globally, what people should be thinking about, what kind of decisions they should be making as they're thinking like, hey, I know that I want to, build this rental portfolio. Number of properties they should aim for, things like that.
Sure. Yeah, it's tough to generalize it, right? Because everybody
Mhm.
kind of needs more of a tailored approach,
Right.
kind of like therapy. But from the get go, it's finding a market, right? And a lot of that is based on, do you want cash flow or do you want appreciation, or maybe a little bit of both if you can find it out there. So that's usually the first step, is just kind of like a needs analysis. What are you looking for? In you want multifamily, you want a house hack, you just want condos, you want to do like a more short-term rental strategy, right? Um, with kind of what they're looking for, and then a budget, how much funds they have, usually need about 20% down, right? So, that usually steers us in a direction, or to a city, right? Just based on what they can afford. But it's balancing really those two, is what they would like ideally, and then what their budget is. And then where can we find that?
Do you ever ask people about what their time frame is or time horizon? Are you looking for money like to live today, or are you looking for something where, 20 years from now you're going to retire and that's going to be your nest egg? Like talk to us about some of the questions that you ask people to think about with regards to time frames and, things like that.
Sure. Yeah. So, of course, we all want someone to buy a house tomorrow, right? And then we get paid. But I think in the investor world, you want to have the longer term horizon, right? Especially nowadays with prices and rates. If you can cash flow a few $100, you're usually doing pretty good. And that's
Mhm.
usually not enough to break the bank for anyone, or let them quit their job, or retire early, right? What usually tends to happen is, they buy one, make a few $100 here and there. They're enjoying it. Think, hey, I kind of want to scale this up, do it some more, right? Maybe acquire one every year or one every couple years. Then you look back 10 years later, and all of a sudden you got 5, 10 properties, and now you're actually starting to make some real money. and even start thinking about maybe quitting your job or retiring early.
Yeah. How do you talk to people with regards to like, do they rent to one family? Do they do rooming houses? Any kind of conversations you have with people with regards to uh, the strategy, or do you start with their market, or do you start again? I'm just trying to probe into your mind a little bit more about how people should think about this. Do they, you know, um,
Yeah,
you
yeah, I
might,
got you.
yeah.
So I mean, the strategy is key, depending
Hmm.
on the market, right? If we're looking at, say Northern Virginia, right, it's
Hmm.
very hard to cash flow there. The only way I've seen it is, being a little more creative. Maybe you
Hmm.
rent by the room or you rent by the bed, even. There's
Hmm.
some people that are renting to flight attendants who are just in town for a little while, and they'll put 4 or 5 beds in a room, and they're not there every day, obviously, but it does help you get your cash flow up. But most people are tend to be a little hesitant to some of the more creative or nuanced ways that, you start to deal with some zoning laws and regulations too, and what you're allowed to do or not. So most people from the jump, we say, hey, just try to get something long-term rental that cash flows, right? And it's in a decent area.
Yeah.
It's getting harder and harder to find, but still possible out there.
Hmm.
And then, if people are enjoying it, if they have some experience, then they tend to be a little more willing to get creative or try something else and think out of the box a little bit.
Yeah. So I will say that I have also heard people will say, like, hey, in order to really cash flow in a higher priced area like the DMV, renting by the rooms. I haven't heard about renting by the beds, but I can imagine that as well. But renting by the room is a thing that you want to consider. I did speak yesterday with a woman who is buying a property that's already, it's like a regular 6 bedroom house, but it has an assisted living designation to it. So that's how she's choosing to, invest some money. She's rolling over 1031 exchange. So, there are other people who do rooming houses. And then there are other people who are like, hey, I'm just here for the appreciation. I want to be able to have properties that I'll have, a certain amount of equity in over time and be able to then figure out what I want to do with them in, 10 to 20 years. So, what questions do you think investors should ask someone like you as they're talking to you with regards to how to strategize and how to work with a realtor um, in order to help them find properties?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want to kind of vet the realtor, right? Make sure they have a clue of what they're doing. Ideally, they invest themselves, right? I think that's the
Mhm.
best kind of secret sauce, right? They're a little better at finding the deals, knowing what they're looking for, right? Because they would maybe buy it themselves if they had the money at the time, right? So that is probably the highest thing. But honestly, I try to focus more on the individual, right? And what they're looking for and what they're trying to accomplish. I will absolutely do my best to get them exactly what they want, but a lot of times it's, I want a gorgeous single family house in Reston, Virginia, and it cash flows $1,000 a month, and then that just, I'm not a miracle worker, unfortunately, right? Or
You
else
aren't?
if you do the, assisted living or, a little more like a sober living house, you can get there still,
Mhm.
right? But that's almost a whole business instead of just a property, right?
Right.
Um, but understanding some of their background, if even ask them of a couple deals that maybe they're done or they've helped clients do. So that's
Mhm.
really powerful. You can hear some real stories of people that bought a house this year or last year, and kind of what strategy they employed. And I've even connected some clients that bought say a year ago with some current clients just so that they could understand it a little better. Take myself out of the middle, right, and just let
Mhm.
the investor talk to the investor,
Yeah.
and that's helped a lot.
Yeah. So Kanari is asking a question. What tools do you use to identify a good long-term rental in your target market?
Sure. So the best things there's obviously the generic like kind of standards or rule of thumbs, right? Like a 1% rule or something similar. Just as something to be aware of. In terms of direct tools, obviously like Zillow or Redfin Realtor, right? You need a place you can find properties. If you're working with an agent, of course they can hook you up with the MLS and get you access there. Um, Most people need a calculator of some kind, right? So you can find them, plenty of them online for free. I personally have a spreadsheet that I use and give to people. I'm happy to share that with anyone if they'd like it. Just to, put the numbers in, put in your insurance and your interest rates and your taxes and, ideally save some for some maintenance or CapEx, and see what that number looks like at the bottom, right? And if your goal is to make $300 a month, okay, can you maybe make a tweak or two to get it to $300 a month? Or hey, if you're looking at minus 500, move on. Go find another property, right? There are some cool data sites out there. St. Louis Fed is one of them. It has an insane amount of data on just about any city in the country. And you can look at like population, median sales prices, median rents, the whole 9 yards there. As an agent, we have a site called getsmartcharts.com. You can also pay for that, not as an agent, but that essentially gives you real estate data in different markets. Uh, Mostly what I'm looking for is our purchase price to a rent ratio as just a very, very high level, right? Most people are familiar with the 1% rule. I usually, it's really like 0.8%, 0.7% is kind of more realistic these days.
Yeah, I was gonna say that that's hard. The 1% rule in the Metro DC area is hard, but yeah.
But yeah, those are a few common tools. I can in the background here. I'll when you kind of move on from me, I'll dig into those sites. I'll put them in the chat so people can
Okay.
take a look at those websites.
Yeah, one of the things that I encourage people to think about, because I do have people now saying, oh, the rates are so high, the rates are so high. And the rates are probably going to continue to be this high throughout 2025. We thought that maybe we had turned the corner, but we're not so sure now. Um, is I encourage people to think about their cash on cash return and not just the rates. So how much money are you putting in, and what is your return on that cash that you're putting in for your down payment and your closing costs? And if it's more than you're getting at a bank, for example, if it's more than you're getting in a money market account, then at that point it might be worth it to take another look at that property as well. So most of us know, and I'm not a financial advisor, so this is just me talking on the internet right now, or in a Zoom, is that, either you're going to get money from, a money market account, some sort of savings account, you're going to get money from the stock market, or you're going to get some sort of return from your real estate. And it's all about balancing those things out. So again, that's what I would encourage people to think about as well. Sometimes, whether you're working with Brandon, or you're out there looking on your own, you may come across something that only gives you a couple $100 a month cash flow. But when you look at what it takes to get into that property, you're making, 5, 6%, 7% even potentially. And real estate, for the most part, is on par with regards to putting your money into, like I said, a money market account. So I just would encourage people to think about that as well.
Yeah, and most of the deals I'm finding, they're in the ballpark of 3% to 8% cash on
Hmm.
cash return. It all depends how conservative you are in your underwriting.
Hmm.
But that's just on a rental, income cash flow standpoint, right? What I've learned over time is the real money is through the appreciation and some of the tax benefits and paying down your loan that comes over time. So sometimes just in the spreadsheet you look at 3%, 4%. Okay, yeah, I can get that in a savings account, right? But when you factor in the big picture, I mean, you're talking easily 10%.
Right, right. So did you have anything else you wanted to talk about before I kind of talk a little bit about the funding piece?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give us a small plug. Do
Yes.
have we call it a deal of the week, right? So essentially, it's an email each week, and it is a property that does have cash flow in the DMV area, right? So if you're local or interested there, or even out of state and looking for a place to invest, you know, I find one every single week just because I got tired of everyone saying I can't find cash flow, I can't find deals. So I've started just saying, hey, here you go. Right. If you want to buy it, great. If you just want it for inspiration or ideas or concepts, you can take that as well.
Perfect. How do people get on that deal of the week list? I know you
I
have a
will
QR
drop
code.
a link for that in the chat as well.
Hmm.
And at the end, I can share a QR code if people are interested.
Yeah. And Ria, I don't know if you can also put the link in Facebook for us, please. Isaac has a question here. What markets do you recommend to invest in where the rental market is strong and you also anticipate appreciation?
So right now, my personal favorite market is Hagerstown, Maryland.
Okay.
So it's about an hour and a half northwest of DC, about an hour and a half west of Baltimore. I like it because you can cash flow right off the MLS today. But I do also see a long-term appreciation. There's a general trend I'm finding, at least in the DMV area. I think a lot of the more expensive markets across the country, where people are just getting pushed further and further out,
Hmm.
right? You know, where they've realized, hey, my budget is called 500 grand. I can't buy the single family house that I want anymore in like a Montgomery County or Loudoun County. So, but I still want the single family house and I want to compromise on that. So, we end up looking, add another 30 minutes to your drive, you can probably find something, right? So I've been seeing that larger trend of people moving further and further out, and that's increasing prices further and further out, right? Uh,
Hmm. Another question from Abe. This is a question for me about do you refinance rental properties? The answer is yes. So I haven't spoken yet about the funding piece of it, but yes, we do refinance rental properties. Uh, so Brandon is going to put that link in the chat for everybody with regards to the deal of the week. So I would encourage you to get on his list, see the deal of the week. Again, if it's just even just for inspiration, or to like see how he analyzes his deals, it's a great way to do that. And Ria is going to put that link into Facebook for us so all of our Facebook watchers can get that information. So um, Kimberly is asking, is there a minimum amount of time to look at appreciation? 5 years, for example?
so I've never I personally don't look at it from a minimum time frame. I look at it as an average return each year, right? So most people are pretty familiar in the stock market. You get your 8-10% returns over the long run. I look at it from okay, each year in my market, it's pretty close to 5%, honestly, each year. Uh, some markets maybe 3%. In some markets maybe negative, right? That's part of kind of researching the market and learning that data. And then you can just project that out 5 years or 10 years or 30 years or whatever your timeline is.
Sorry, I was responding direct message to somebody. So yeah, I think everybody's strategy is going to be different. If you're a younger person and you have a longer time horizon versus somebody who is looking to retire in the next 5 to 10 years, those answers are going to be different for you. So that's where I think Brandon is really great. He works with a lot of investors, and just talking to him, with regards to a strategy, and then having him assemble some properties for you to look at based on the strategy that you are thinking of, is to me like a very good way to start this. So start this process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through some of the funding aspects of this process with regard to building your rental portfolio. So I want to give you like three major buckets of loan options or funding options that you have with regards to building your rental, buy and hold rental property portfolio. The first are going to be my low down payment options, because I know you love your low down payments. So we're going to talk about that. The second group that we're going to talk about is just your investor loans, like what's out there for properties that you want to buy and hold. And the third group of loans I'm going to talk about is just around the BRRRR concept. BRRRR, of course, stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. So we're going to talk about those three buckets. So let's talk with bucket number one. Low down payment, because I know so many people say, oh, Cheree, I want to get in for as little money as possible. And trust me, I get it. And I'm with you here. So there are a couple of different ways that you could do it. My favorite way is for you to purchase your first house as your primary residence. You're going to live in that house for 12 months to 24 months. Then you're going to buy your second house, which is going to be your primary residence, and you're going to rent out that first house. And then you're going to live in that second house for 1 to 2 years, and you're going to buy your third house, and you're going to have your first and second house as rentals. So if you're looking for the low down payment option, that really is going to be your best bet. So when you buy a primary home, your down payment is anywhere from 3 to 5% of the purchase price. I do have access to grants. However, one specific grant that I have access to, the rates are a little bit higher. So I'm just in full disclosure. But there are different ways for you to get into that first property and then the second and third property as your primary residence. But you're looking at a down payment of 3 to 5%. Okay. You also can decide that you want to purchase a duplex or a 3-unit or a 4-unit building, and you can live in one of the units and rent out the other units. You can do it anywhere from 1 to 4 units with still putting down 3 to 5% down payment. If you're purchasing a property that's just 1 or 2 units, you have to be able to afford that entire mortgage payment on your own. The lender is not going to, you're going to tell me like, hey, Cheree, I'm going to rent out part of this house. I cannot bring that to the underwriters and get that approved. Once we get to you buying a 3 or 4 unit property, then what we're able to do is we're able to take, let's say you were buying a 4-unit property, we're able to take the other 3 units, we're going to get the market rents for those other units, and we're able to add 75% of that expected rental income to your income, your W-2 income or your self-employed income. All right. So again, I have people who buy their first home for 3 to 5% down. They live in it for a year or two. They move up and they rent out that first property. And you're able to do that as well. And then they keep doing that. And like Brandon said, within 10 years, you could have 5 properties, let's say, if you do it every other year. And that's a viable option for you. A couple of other things with regards to the low down payment options. These loans do not close in LLCs. These are conventional loans or FHA loans. So it cannot close in an LLC. The other thing, this is like a little trap that people fall into, a couple of traps people fall into. The big one is, because it's tax time, the way you do your taxes. Let's say that you buy a house and you're getting rental income within that first primary residence. and you don't report it on your taxes, but you tell me, hey, Cheree, I'm getting this rental income. While and I've been getting it for the past 2 years. You have to get it on two taxes. It has to be listed, sorry, on two taxes for me to count it as additional income that you have. If you're not reporting that rental income and you don't make enough money to be able to afford that second house, then sometimes people run into those pitfalls. The other big one, which I have a client currently going through this, is that she had, or her CPA set up her expenses on her taxes as expenses and not as depreciation. So as a lender, the way your CPA does your taxes can negatively impact your ability to move up. So if you just want to come to me and say, hey, Cheree, my CPA is thinking about doing my taxes this way, is this going to work from a lending point of view when I'm ready to move up? I'm able to talk with you about that. But I can tell you right now, we are able to add back in depreciation that your CPA puts on your taxes. And if your property is being renovated, especially like, your rental property is being renovated over, let's say a month or 2 month or 3 month period, and you show us the invoices for that renovation, we're able to add those expenses back in. But if you're putting utilities and things like that on your taxes, we have to deduct that from your income. And sometimes that does negatively impact your ability to move up to the next property. Okay. So your taxes and the way you set up your taxes does and can affect you, negatively with regards to moving up. So,
Can I cut in? We got a couple questions in the
yes.
chat.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, first one is what is the significance of living in the home for a minimum of 12 months?
That is a Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae policy. So that's that any lender that you go to, when you're looking to get a conventional or your next FHA or conventional loan, that's going to be their requirement. Outside of that, I don't know the significance of why they chose 12 months, but they did. So,
And one more.
mhm,
Uh, question from Canary is assuming you have
mhm,
a 30-year Fannie Freddie mortgage for your first home. If you move
mhm.
out in renting it, does it not jeopardize that financing? Just
No,
to
I'm sorry. I cut you off.
there's kind of another sentence to the question, but that the main question was asked there. So we're good.
Yes. So the
Can you
answer is
elaborate on that a
no.
little bit?
And this is really great. So those people who got those 3% and 4% loans 4 years ago, and they decide to move up, they can absolutely keep those loans. As long as you're paying on your mortgage. I hate to say the bank doesn't care, but that's probably the best way to say it. So no, you're then able to, so what we would do on your loan application is we would say you're going to keep this property that you're moving out of as a rental, and you're going to move into that new property as a primary residence. And it works. Uh, a couple other things. So I told you the low down payment options was the first option for low down payment is for you to basically do the move up strategy. The second option for low down payments is if you want to purchase that other property as a second home. And the second home loans really only work for short-term rentals or medium-term rentals. They don't work as much for long-term rentals. The reason for it is because if you're buying the property as a second home, you do have to still maintain control over that property. But I did want to bring that in here because, if you decide to do a medium-term rental and you get another property, you can get it with 10% down payment. It is a conventional loan, so you will need to be able to support both your primary home mortgage and that second home mortgage. with your income, with your W-2 income. Also, it cannot close in an LLC as well because it is a conventional loan. But I do have people coming to me, they want to do either short-term rentals or medium-term rentals, and they want to get in with 10% down, and that's the way to do it. Another option for you are something called the DSCR loans. DSCR, fancy term, sorry, acronyms, fancy term, simple concept. All it means is for you to get approved for the mortgage as an investor, for every dollar that you're going to spend in your mortgage payment, you need to have at least $1 of rental income. Again, for every dollar you're going to spend in a mortgage payment, you have to have $1 of rental income. Now, here's the trick. The mortgage does include not only your principal and interest, but it also includes your taxes, insurance, and any HOA or condo fees that you have to pay. So when you are talking with Brandon, when you are looking at properties, when Brandon pulls out the calculator, he's not only going to calculate principal and interest for those DSCR loans, he's also going to add in taxes, insurance, and HOA fees and say, okay, the market rent needs to be here for you to get approved, or you two will call me and we'll work on it together as a team. So the DSCR loans are a very popular way of people getting funding. I have one lender that will go as low as a 600 credit score. You will put down anywhere from 15% to 35%. The two major factors that will dictate where you are in the down payment is where the property is located. If it's in a remote area, you're going to put more money down. And then the second thing is your credit score. The higher your credit, the less you'll have to put down. Okay. However, I have people with 750, 780 credit that still have to put 30 to 35% down if you're buying in a remote area. So just be aware of that. All right. And then the final set of loans that we have are, and this is really just the concept with regard to the BRRRR loans. Again, BRRRR is buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. And you hear this a lot with regards to investment properties. So what you're able to do is you're able to get a 12-month loan in order to purchase the property and fix it up, to buy and renovate the property, right? It's a 12-month loan. Usually there's no prepayment penalty for it, so you can pay it off early, but you buy the property, you renovate it, and then you're going to refinance that property. Well, hopefully rent it out first and then refinance that property. With BRRRR, you are able to then hopefully get all your cash out and be able to buy the next property and the next property. I will tell you that BRRRR sounds great in theory, and it can be done. However, when people start putting pencil to paper with regards to calculations, I have yet to have a successful person do a BRRRR where they haven't kept some money in that first property. Because by the time you add in your down payment costs, your closing costs for the first loan, your carrying costs, which is like interest only payments while you're renovating the property, and then the closing costs in order to refinance the property, usually people will need to still have some money in that first property. So, you know, I believe in being honest with regards to the BRRRR strategy. But if you're really good at finding great deals and finding great properties and renovating them and staying on top of your contractors and keeping your costs low, the BRRRR strategy can work. So those are the four different ways, sorry, that you're able to fund your rental portfolio. So I don't see any more questions in the chat. Does anybody have a question before we bring up our special guest?
I think Travis had one. You responded to a question. It was about the living in it for 12 months minimum. Is it the same for VA loan?
Yes, it should be. Yeah. Yep. All right, so I've got a special guest here. I invited her last minute last week. Her name is Kim Chavez. And as you are building your long-term rental portfolio, one of the things that can really trip you up is bringing in the wrong renter, you know, and also you may just need help with property management. So Kim is a real estate investor, has been for years. She's been in property management for years, and she's just super knowledgeable with regards to, you know, the whole rental process. And I might even ask her some questions because, you know, just understand that laws are different in different states as well. So she's not a lawyer, but she's just going to talk about some of the things that you want to be aware of based on, you know, where you are choosing to get or to have your portfolio. So Kim, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. I did see another question pop up. Did you want to take care of that one first?
I just saw it. So the question from Kimberly is, what loan can you do for an LLC? LLCs can be the DSCR loans. Those are the loans, again, for every dollar of mortgage, you need a dollar of rental income. So you can do those in an LLC. And you're also able to do the BRRRR loans in the LLC as well. So the fix and flip and then refinance it into a long-term 30-year loan. You're able to do all of those in an LLC. Those are the most popular loans.
Okay. All the questions are cleared now?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. All right. Well, hello, everybody again. Cheree, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Brandon, thank you. I give you a little bit of history first. Way back in the day, I used to have a property management company. We managed about 300 units. It was over the two offices. We had 240 units in Maryland, and I had started the Virginia office a little bit later. And so we were building that, and we got up to about 60 units there. And property management, can sometimes be a little, cumbersome. And I wanted to try and take a stab at doing something different. So we ended up selling that business. And I was with accounting with property management being very accounting heavy. I then took a little time, just, kind of like as you do in between jobs, you kind of take your little vacation. I took a fair amount of vacation and then went into the CFO role with the Casa Group, and we started our expansion offices. And I was the CFO and helped out with all the accounting and everything there. I am now back into the property management arena, and Rob and I we're just in the process of launching True Home Property Management. And a lot of things have changed from when I had my property management company before. A lot of technology is there to help now for landlords. I will say with True Home Property Management, if you need just help running a rental application and you want another set of eyes on it, or just to get my feedback of whether or not I think that, somebody would be a good applicant or a good tenant. And, it's not necessarily all about just looking at the credit score and going yes or no. There's a lot that plays into. They may not have the best credit, but why and what can you do about it? And, there's different things to look at. So I'd be happy to help with running the rental application and then giving my, feedback on whether or not I think that there would be something to do without just it being a straight no across the board, or a really good yes, and as to why. The other thing is that if you need help just filling your units we can help just do that. We don't have to do the property management, but then if you want to, obviously, property management services, we're not the only property management company out there, but property management services would be, available as well. So why would you go with a property management company, I guess, would be a big question. If you are, a professional and you have your time is, well, I'm actually going to back up. If there are a lot of people who invest in areas that are not necessarily close to them. When I had my property management company before, a majority of my owners were not local. And so, it would be very difficult. Rob and I, we actually had a condo in St. Petersburg, Florida that we managed from Virginia. It was easy, it was small, but would we want to do a lot of those? No, like that. And we knew the area. So, one was pretty easy, but not everybody has the time to do that. We're also in real estate, so we have a better understanding of the ins and outs, and then having the property management company before. But if that's not, if that's not your thing, there is a lot of help out there that property managers can give you, from getting your unit into new tenant ready condition. They'll handle everything for you. Getting the right applicants in there, collecting the rent, handling the maintenance calls, even at 2 o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately,
Tenants and toilets, right?
yes, exactly. I mean, nobody wants any kind of maintenance calls on their property, but it's nice to have somebody that is there that is, fielding those and has the Rolodex of, I'm on it, I got the right person to call, and you get it taken care of, whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning or something that can wait. Like you have the ability and the network to be able to fix the problem. If the tenant is not paying rent, going to the courthouse, following the proper procedure, doing what needs to be done, even working on a payment plan with them, all the way to eviction. And then the process would start over again, getting into new tenant ready condition, and obviously the name of the game too, because getting it into new tenant ready condition every time is where the majority of your money goes. So the idea and the goal is to keep the tenant there as long as possible. So again, screening is super important. Keeping them happy is super important. Keeping the property up is super important, because the longer that they stay, the more revenue the better profit you will make from that property. So I think I see some questions kind of coming in.
Yeah, so one of the questions is if you could post the link to your property management company or some sort of
Absolutely.
way people can get in touch with you.
Sure, absolutely. We are launching it. So I will give that information to Cheree in about a week when we have everything up and running. Absolutely. Happy to do that. In the meantime, I can, I don't know if Cheree or Brandon, do I have the ability to post in here?
You should.
Okay.
Sure. Or you just drop an email in there and they can
Okay.
stay in the
Very
loop with
good.
you.
Yep.
Yep, very good. In the meantime, I can give you my phone number and we can just do it that way. So.
Perfect. Perfect. So I want to go up to another question that YP asked. When purchasing an investment property in a different state, is it advisable to work with a lender who is local to that state? So, and I do want to thank Travis for his responses as well. The number one thing is you want a lender who can actually close the loan. So if the lender is local to that property and they cannot close the loan, they're useless to you. I have personally, I live in Maryland and our office is in Virginia. However, I've closed loans in New York and worked with people in Georgia and Louisiana. We're closing a loan in Kentucky. So me being local to that property is not, necessary. I will tell you that a lot of lenders, especially if they're traditional lenders, they don't work well with investors. So you do want to, and Travis is right, you do want to find a lender that really knows their way around long-term rentals or short-term rentals. What are the pitfalls that are going to happen with this loan, or potential pitfalls that are going to happen with this loan, or things that we need to be aware of, so that way I'm able to, like, for example, I'm able to guide you with regard to, okay, based on all the things that you told me, this might be a little bit of a hiccup. Let's go to the underwriter now and get their pre-approval and blessing on this, or things like that. So, um, and yes, a lender can offer local knowledge. However, I depend on like a Brandon. Like if Brandon contacts me, or if, Travis were to contact me, I would work with that realtor with regards to any local knowledge. But the majority of the things that we would need, it really is just around the taxes in that local area, with regards to evaluating the deal, and the numbers themselves. So Hema is asking, Kim, approximately how much does a property manager cost? Is it a percentage of the rent, or is it a flat rate?
So all property management companies are different. I would say typically what I have experienced and seen, and speaking with other property management companies too, it is usually a percentage of the rent every month. There are, that's the typical way property managers get paid. Then there are other reasons that maybe a property management company would collect fees, like if they had to go, if they went to if you are, again, out of state or even out of country, and you wanted them to go to your HOA or COA meeting, there would probably be an hourly fee, whatever their hourly fee is. And that I can't really talk to, because that is where the cost wildly is different. But that would be some of you have to go to court and sit in court for potentially hours. That would be something that would be an additional fee. So you would be paying for the person's time. You're taking them away from their desk and being able to help, other clients or tenants or whatever. So you would be paying for their time to go and do those special things. As far as like just the typical kind of monthly fee, yes, it's about, for Northern Virginia, it's about 8 to 10% of the monthly rent.
Perfect. Another question from YP for you, Kim.
Okay.
What specific services, and you kind of talked about this, but I'll ask you again, what specific services or expertise do you offer that differentiate you from other property management companies in the area?
Gotcha. Okay. You're going to find that a lot of property management companies, really, there's a good basic, set that everybody does. You have to run applications to find the good applicants. You're going to collect the rent. You're going to handle the service calls, the maintenance calls that come in, and you're going to, deal with the problem tenants. We have the ability for, here in Northern Virginia, we have the ability for Spanish-speaking tenants. And we also, like I said before, we offer, if you just need help with running applications, if you want application plus just going through the leasing process, we can help lease it, and then you take it from there and actually do the property management of the property yourself. Or, so we're kind of a la carting the services, right? So we're here to kind of help fit and give our experience and knowledge on whatever level that you are needing. And then if it's the full property management services, we're here for that as well. And like I said, we do have a lot of Spanish-speaking tenants, and we have the ability to be able to work with those as well.
Okay. Brandon, while I answer one of these other questions, if you could pull up your Deal of the Week program again. I'm going to answer this question from YP asking me right now, what are the DSCR rates? I have been quoting people anywhere from 7.25% to 8.5%. The 8.5% is like people who don't want a prepayment penalty. Usually the DSCR loans have a 3-year prepayment penalty. And that's the scale there. So those are the rates. Brandon, do you want to promote your deal of the week again, please?
Sure. I will share my screen quick. Some people have seen a decent bit of them coming through, so I do appreciate that, everybody. We have also made a little QR code to make it easier for you. And I'll just elaborate a little bit on it. I usually send it out on Wednesdays, so I have not done the one today just yet. So if you sign up in the next couple hours, you will be able to get that. But I do kind of mix it up just depending on what I find out there. But a lot of time, long-term rentals, medium-term rentals, short-term rentals, a couple fix and flips and wholesalers that I network with. Then every once in a while, development land, or maybe even a partnership or lending opportunity. So if any of those kind of stand out to you, or you're looking for something specific, we can always have a more personalized conversation. But if you just kind of want to see what's out there, get familiar with it, feel free to check it out.
Oh, and Brandon, let's keep that up a few minutes so people can make sure to scan that. Kim, I saw a couple more questions for you. Canary is asking, based on your experience, what are the most common mistakes newbie rental property investors make? Actually, this is a question that's good for both of you. So I'll start with you, Kim.
Okay. I really feel all the way back from purchasing the property, like you want to make sure that you're purchasing it right, making sure you're doing your due diligence and you really understand what you're going to cash flow. So if you buy the deal wrong or you buy the property wrong and you're going to be sweating it every single month because you're maybe even going to be taking a loss every month, straight out of the gate, that's going to hurt. So the next thing, so now you're screening for your tenants. You really want to do your due diligence. If you're doing it yourself, do not just, get a gut feeling and go, off this person. Check their income, pull their pay stubs, verify their employment, really make sure that their their income to debt ratio and their income to rent ratio is what it needs to be so they can cover the rent every month. If they have any pets, you want to make sure you understand what that's going to do to your property and how you can safeguard yourself from any kind of pet damage. I would also, if you are the person coming in, this is their first month, so like they're signing the lease and you're handing over the keys. I strongly suggest that you collect your first month's rent in a cashier's check or in cash. Do not accept a check. If you're doing this yourself, do not accept a check. Property management companies nowadays, this is where I had kind of alluded before, a lot of technology has changed from when I had my property management company before. We have portals now where we can give a link and the applicants and then ongoing, the tenants pay their rent through a portal, right? So if something goes wrong, we do learn about it through the portal that they didn't make a payment or whatever. But if this is the first month's rent, you were handing over keys and first month's rent and they're paying with a personal check, they have signed a lease. They are technically your tenant. And now their check bounces. You have to go through the eviction process to get somebody out that is just signed a lease with you. So this is taking time that you cannot turn around and put this property back up for rent. This person has a contractual agreement with you and you with them and them with you. So I always suggest that if you're doing this yourself, that would be the biggest thing, is your first month's rent and your security deposit are both collected in separate, like cashier's check. You're getting 2 cashier's check, cash, obviously. The other thing is that your security deposits, those are not yours. You are supposed to keep those separate account from your rental operating account. That money is not yours. Do not spend that money. That money is the tenants that you are holding for when they move out, minus any expenses that you would need to put towards your property. But that security deposit money, sorry, that is not your money. So it needs to be kept separate. So those are the two biggest things that I think, well, three as far as how you purchase a property. But the security deposit, and the security deposit and rent, and then doing your due diligence on actually, running the background check and stuff like that. Because again, it's just from the very beginning. If you're starting it off wrong, I will add another one. Make sure that your property is in good condition when you're renting it to them. You don't need to go overboard and over improve it or anything, but you're setting a precedence with how you're giving it to them is hopefully how they're going to keep it, especially in like the Northern Virginia area. You have a more sophisticated tenant, right? So you set a good precedence by making it nice and clean, no holes in the walls. It's painted nicely. Again, you don't have to like go crazy and have it be, nicer than the house you live in kind of thing. This is a renter and it is a rental unit. The idea for this is for you to have monthly income coming in. So, again, the renovations don't have to be nuts, but you are setting a precedence with how you want to keep the property, how you're handing it to them, and how you want to get it handed back.
Brandon, same question. Most common mistakes people make.
Sure. Yeah, so I think Kim sort of touched on it a little bit. A lot of people are not very conservative underwriting deals. I think at least the easiest things that come to mind, a lot of people don't account for something like a vacancy or maintenance or even CapEx, but essentially just costs that will eat into your rental income month over month. And obviously you don't have it every single month, but every once in a while a pipe starts leaking, you got to call the plumber out, spend a few $100, right? You want to account for that when you're looking at the deals. Maybe a less known one. I like to really look at how many properties are available at the time you're trying to buy this that meet the same criteria. So, if it's maybe a 1 bedroom, 1 bath condo and there's 40 of them in the building for rent, okay, you might not want to buy that one, right? Because you're just, unless you can somehow set yourself apart from the other 40 of them, right? But if you look and you're the only, 3 bedroom condo in that same building, okay, you're going to have a much easier time renting that out. I think also just not being flexible with what works, right? A lot of people try to cram the square peg in the round hole, right? And I just say, hey, if you really want like just a simple buy it, long-term rental, cash flow, you're not going to get it in, say, Northern Virginia, right? Unless you bought it 5 years ago, right? And then you call Kim up and you have her take over for you because you're tired of it. But if you're willing to be flexible and creative, you absolutely can still find some things out there that make sense.
Oh, Kim, how big is your property management team?
So it is me. And then I have the entire the Casa group team as far as real estate agents. And I have a whole marketing team as well. So for right now, I am the property management core team. But the leasing agents with the Casa group and everything are very close, and I work with a bunch of the agents and everything as far as the leasing process. And then we also have construction team, sorry. So we also have an in-house construction team. So the property needs to get into new tenant ready condition. Then we have contractor in-house that can give bids and everything to help with that. Yeah, that's about it.
Oh, another question for you, Kim. Do you have a team in Baltimore?
We do not. So the areas that we are focusing on right now are Reston, Herndon, Sterling, Great Falls, and Vienna. So we're not doing, definitely not doing Maryland, and we are not doing DC. Right now, those are the areas that we're focusing on. We may expand at some point, but right now it's just that.
Yeah, if you need a trusted source, reach out to us because we know a lot of people. So we'll put it out to our network and we'll get a trusted person in Baltimore, wherever you are in the country. Let us know and we'll get you connected to somebody who can assist you. So, question in terms of first month rent and security deposit. So this is going to Kim. In terms of first month's rent and security deposit, how does a cashier's check or cash as opposed to a personal check create security?
Create security in what manner? So
You
create
were
security.
earlier when you were talking about making sure you get the cash. So you know what's going on.
Yeah. So creating security, I mean, for creating security for the landlord is knowing that you have somebody moving in that at least you are covering your first month's rent and security deposit. Now, keep in mind when I had said, like, say that person's check bounces right away, right? Then they may or may not have issues going forward. If they do, and you have to evict them, you can use their security deposit for your loss of rent for that second month. So if you know for sure, I'm saying the security is on the landlord side right now. If you have collected cashier's check or cash, you now have essentially 2 months rent if you have to evict them. So that is paying you for the time that you are not going to have the property on the market. And hopefully you can get the eviction done in the 2-month period. I'm not sure security wise how else you maybe meant that, if it was different than
If I
that.
can maybe chime in, a cashier's check is validated, and obviously a cash it's real money in your hand right this second. A personal check, they can write $8 million on there, right? But if there's not 8 million in their bank account, it's not coming to you, right?
Yeah, and you would go to the bank to get the cashier's check. So you are paying them cash or they are withdrawing cash from your account. So the bank says, this is good, and we're willing to give our check to you because we know that, like, it's secure. So
Yeah, Paula says cashier's check don't bounce. What about Zelle and Cash App and PayPal, some of the new ways that people are choosing to pay?
yeah, that is I've not, again, with portals with the property management company, we kind of really don't have to deal with that. I don't know. I don't want to speak on it because I just really haven't had any experience with that. I have heard of fraud with, not with Zelle, but with PayPal and with Venmo. And I don't know so much about Cash App. So yeah, I don't want to speak to it. I know I have heard of fraud. I don't know, I don't know to what extent though that would be a good idea or a bad idea.
Yes, I will say from a lender's point of view, the good thing about Zelle is that it has the person's name on your bank statement. So I have a client now who gets her rental payments from one of her renters through Zelle. And when we were able to look at the lease agreement and we were able to match the name of the person on her bank statement, it was proof that she's been getting those rental payments every month. So Cash App, don't I don't know. The last time I looked, they didn't have like decent reporting for Cash App. So I'm just going to say, as a lender, if you can get the payments through Zelle, um, PayPal, I do know that you're able to get the PayPal reports, but if there's an issue with fraud, we don't want that. But I do know that from a lending point of view, Zelle does work for us to be able to trace those payments back. So. Travis wants Kim to open up an office in Knoxville. So
Hi, Travis.
Brandon, question for you. Why do you recommend Hagerstown? And he also signed up for the deal of the week.
Oh, cool. Well, I appreciate that. Um, the biggest reason is because it's one of the very few markets I'm aware of that you can get cash flow and appreciation. And I see that working well. Right off the MLS today, you can buy a cash flowing property at today's rates and today's prices. So that knocks out 90% of the cities in the country at this point, I think. So that's one thing. Towards the appreciation side of things, right? Similar to what I mentioned earlier, people are just being pushed further and further out. I grew up in Frederick, Maryland. What it's kind of the next big city over. What remember Frederick being as a child, I see a lot of similarities with Hagerstown today. And then, I think that applies across the whole country, though, I'd imagine, of just, if you can't live in Seattle, you work to the outskirts. If you can't live in LA, you work to the outskirts. If you can't live in DC, you move to the outskirts. So I think that's where most opportunity is today is this more tertiary kind of markets, call it an hour from a big city.
Next question is for Kim. YP says that the property that they have is in Springfield, but you didn't list that as an area that you manage. Do you manage properties in Springfield?
We currently do not. Again, we may be expanding. Just right now, their core list is Reston, Herndon, Great Falls, Vienna, Reston, Sterling. So that's the core area for right now, but I do see it as expanding. I'm just not entirely sure when.
Brandon, Isaac is asking for you to post your info one more time. And also, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to sign up for Brandon's deal of the week, reach out to him in order to do that as well. Kim, would you mind one more time putting your information
Absolutely
into the chat? That way people can find it. And I have put mine back in here as well. Canary is saying if anyone has legal questions related to real estate, that is Canary's niche. Gave his LinkedIn information. And YP, Kim, YP is asking for recommendations for property managers probably in a Springfield area. I think YP, if you can email Kim is,
I'll give
call
that,
or text Kim. And,
I'll give my email address as well.
Yes, email Kim, YP, and we'll get that referral to you. One thing we do have is an expansive network within CASA and within the Gridiverse. So we'll definitely get you somebody. Oh, Canara's she? Oh, I'm so sorry, Canary. Okay. Final comments, Brandon.
Oh, yeah, this was a blast. I had a great time. It's always good this is my favorite thing to talk about. Real estate, investing, finances. This is my cup of tea. So, if anyone wants to talk about it at any time, I'm an open book. Happy to pass along my knowledge and different experience for myself or any clients. And I'm sure Kim and Cheree are quite similar.
Yes, Kim, final comments?
Just thank you for having me. This was great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And my final comment is, if you have a great deal, let us know. We'll work the numbers up for you. And if you are looking for a strategy, just really think long-term about your strategy, because we, within Grid, we really care about you building, building wealth. That is our core tenet here. So that is it for us for this month around the funding piece of, getting your portfolios together, up and running. Thank you so much. And also Travis, if he wants to wave his hand, Travis is in Knoxville. He is part of the CASA team as well. So if you are looking for properties in Knoxville, he is definitely able to help you. So All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and we'll see you next month. Take care. Bye-bye.